Hello, everyone. This session is titled How to Incorporate UX Research into the Product Development Process, where I'll talk about UX and design. I can't really see you from here, but I'm so pleased to know that you are interested in this session where I will share our insights earned from the product development of PayPay Flea Market. I'll do my best to make it simple so that participants in different line of works besides designers can easily digest. Thank you. Well, since the presentation will be in English, so if you want to refer to Japanese text, you can always refer to the Japanese one from this URL. So let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Kaho Tajima of Yahoo, Japan. I am a UI and UX designer for PayPay Flea Market. I'm also a design team manager and head of design for overall service. I also belong to Designship General Incorporated Association to contribute to design industry. I also support different companies, large and small, on the side. So Tajima _ Kaho, that's actually my name for the Twitter. If you're interested in, please come and check. So here is about our PayPay Flea Market. That's the name of the app. And it's a C2C flea market service. You can pay with PayPay and receive money from PayPay. Now it's available via iOS, Android app, web, and PayPay itself. Just quickly walk you through the history of a PayPay Flea Market. Flea Market was launched in October 2019 to offer iOS and Android app version at the same time. Later, web and PayPay mini apps became available, and we've actively offering integration with external services such as Digital and Wear. It was awarded the grand prize in the user voting section of Google Play Best of 2020. And it's been 3 years since release, and we have over 15 million downloads in total, becoming quite popular. So let me come back to the session title, How to Nurture UX Research Culture in PayPay Flea Market Service and Incorporate it in Product Development. If you want to try UX research or want to know more about UX research and product development, you came to the right session. So based on what we're doing in the PayPay Flea Market, I would like to talk about the UX research approach and what kind of issues that we have addressed, and with some case studies. So these are the 4 topics that I would like to go through today. So the first topic is a UX research approach. So what is UX research in the first place? UX research could be defined in many different ways, but UX research is a method of UX design, and running a cycle of tests and hypotheses enable us to provide a good service and experience to users. At the end of the day, what matters to research is whether we can provide a good service and experience to a user. So today I'll talk about that point, how we could incorporate a research result into a good user experience. So here is the UX research methodology. Methodology could be like a tailor-made to the purpose of the US research. If it's like the qualitative research, we could go for the interview or usability test. If it's a quantitative research, then we can take a survey, including questionnaires. So it depends on the objectives of the research. What would be the most optimized methodology? That's what we are always thinking about. So here's a question for you. How well do you know the users of the product you're developing? Let's try to think about mine. How much do you know? What kind of image do you have on the users? The reason why I ask this question is because what we often hear from people during the UX research is, at the end of the day, interview is just one person's opinion, isn't it? Or how beneficial is user survey for business? Or isn't it time consuming? I'm sure many of you are familiar with these. So such people's mindset could be a hurdle when you conduct UX research. And why does such thing happen? Because people have a way bigger expectation, which is A in this picture, than how much they invest. So people have high expectation on the immediate effect out of the survey. Well, speaking about my experience in reality, survey and effect are deeply intertwined. Sometimes one survey brings two small effects, or another time, multiple surveys contributes to one effect. Some takes time more than the others. Occasionally, you realize the benefit after a while. So, for example, when you look into a particular specification, it reminds you of the interview done 6 months ago that the users listed the things on how hard to use.
So if we expect a simple one-to-one relationship between research and effectiveness, we may end up in a situation where the output comes first and the research is not prioritized. And we tend to research whenever necessary. And if do so, then the high performance cost-effective surveys are conducted, and the user may not feel that they have achieved certain level of effectiveness actually in that case. So I'd like to ask you this same question again. What do you think? How well do you know the users of the products you're developing? Let me change the question. Maybe some of you don't have enough time, so I'd like to ask different question. For those of you who don't really feel like it, how are you trying to get to know your friends and family? Since you have friends and family, maybe you can imagine. And of course, if you have more opportunities to talk to them, and also if you talk to them more recently, you know more about them. And for user research and for user UX research, I think it goes to for the survey as well. And so if you do that user research again and again, then the user resolution will increase. So by increasing the resolution of user, we'll be able to create a comprehensive effect, and then you'll be able to understand the value of the research. And one message that I'd like to tell you is that there always are the UX research, and that culture is valuable. And if you don't talk to someone, maybe you can't remember what that person was like. And based on this message, I'd like to proceed with my presentation. And today, I'd like to talk again about how we are fostering a culture of UX research and connecting it to product development. I'd like to talk about more specific and the PayPay Flea Market development flow, and also I'd like to talk about the issues of UX research. So I'd like to talk about the development flow and the organization as well. And the organization for the development of PayPay Flea Market are divided into product management, FE, and BE positions, and the backend positions. And by function development as needed, the people are assigned, and the release is done once every 2 weeks. And there are multiple projects running toward that goal. And the main development flow is the issue definition, functional specification definition, information design, UI design, development, QA, and release. The designer's main task in the issue definition, functional specification, and information design phases are to determine which functions are valuable to the users and which functions are not with the product manager. And then for the development release, QA and release, use Figma, design, and communicate with engineers while doing Figma. And there are some design issues that I'd like to share with you from now. And what I was thinking of that there are differences between user image and solution. And as you look at the structure and the organization of the development, there are many different people with different jobs and positions. And depending on the jobs and position, the resolution or the viewpoint of users may differ depending on position and role. And it becomes blurred what products we wanted to deliver. So who wants to use for what purpose needs to be commonly understood by all the development members. So it is necessary to incorporate user feedback into the development of every feature. However, in the product development, people and time are finite, and it will be a real disadvantage if the timing of providing users feedback is delayed. So there were conflict between wanting to hear users' opinions and wanting to deliver the product to users as much as possible or as soon as possible. And in addition, relating to people and time, there were a few people who could do UX research at that time, and I was also not dedicated to UX research, but I was doing UX design and other development work. So there were limit to the development resources, and so it was a bad pattern. And output came first, and the research was not effectively prioritized, and we intended to research whenever we thought it is absolutely necessary. However, there was a turning point. We were expanding our organization, and we happened to have more people who were interested in doing UX researches. I thought this would be a great way to foster the ideal UX research culture. And I started taking actions for ideal measure approach. And as was shown in the message, first, to foster a culture of regular UX research and to improve user resolution. And these are important points. Therefore, for the functional development cycle, I wasn't that particular about that, and we were aiming to conduct and reflect UX research at regular cycles and deliver features to users. And so far, I have talked about the overall flow and the regular UX research, and there are two actual cases that I'd like to introduce to you today. And first is qualitative survey, and to create the persona for existing user, and also loyalty survey.
In order to improve the resolution, we actually go from these two perspectives. So these are two major use cases to share with you. So let me go first with the creating the persona of the existing users. Why did we do that? Because there are two users in two different positions, sellers and buyers. And their attributes were very complicated. And it's hard to grasp and capture the persona. And when we start to discuss over and over and the features are bloated. So as I said, we should discuss and we should have the common ideas among the developed members, like what kind of features is suited to this certain type of a persona. So what specifically we did was we we interview existing users of PayPay Flea Market, and then they solidified a persona by analyzing qualitative data derived from the interview. I'll show you like what exactly we did. So first of all, we asked the survey company to invite 5 sellers and 5 buyers respectively, somewhere outside of our company, and we interviewed them. So total 10 people were interviewed. Massive amount of the quantitative data we captured. So I'll actually show you how we analyzed these data. So first of all, we did a grouping. In line with the interview, we actually list the multiple axes and do the mapping of interviewers who are similar to each other. This is just a part of what we did. So for example, from the top, want to buy with coupon or during the campaign, those who are actually really paying attention to or not. And those like mainly selling the things or those buying things, or those who earn money or don't earn money as an objective. And a higher satisfaction, lower satisfaction, it was a PayPay Flea Market. So we mapped out and grouped them. And this is the result of the grouping. Consolidate the speeches delivered by the interviewers in the same group and bundle them under the same group. So if there are a total of 3 of them in one group, we bundle them together in one group. And then show correlation between groups to visualize the relationship among them. So this is how we visualize it. So then that would actually tell us, for example, this person is actually selling the things with a higher values, or this person prefer using the coupon or campaign. So those people, or the one who would prefer spending less money for the fee so that they can earn more money. So we could see like better correlation between the groups. So based on this, we created a persona. Due to the personal information disclosure, we can't really show you the picture and the detail of names. But this person is a corporate worker, and then it was multiple hobbies based on the mapping. While earning money, this person really would like to buy things in a relatively cheap way. And the story tied to this person is based on the interview. So the story is really real. Let me read this out. So the PayPay Flea Market is the cheapest and I started to use it, but not enough users there, so I can't find what I look for, and I can't really sell things, which is frustrating. Want more people to come and see my goods on sale. So then Mercari is good for selling things quickly, but fee is high. So I prefer PayPay Flea Market when selling things for the cheapest fee. I frequently check Flea Market app to see if my goods on sale were sold. So I just quite often go back to the app and check the status. So very particular user behaviors were described in the story, giving you more like a real persona of that person. Besides the persona, here is actually a more abstract persona to create the value map. With this value map, for example, those who would like to have like less communication, then maybe the communication on the PayPay Flea Market is closed with no worries, and if someone come in to snatch the deal, so messaging format is easy to use. This is quite important for this particular person. So this kind of the recap and a review of the persona is possible with this value map. And another example is one person searched things after the person knew what the person wants to know, but in many cases that person know like what this person wants to have, so that usually goes straight to the keyword search. So when we work on the searching function, it tries to remind myself of the stories like this so we can recap and revisit what the persona or the actual story was. So visualization allow us to revisit what kind of behavioral tendencies that the person may have. So then we created 3 persona as the groupings were broken down to 3 patterns. As I introduced, first, there are 2 more. A persona is someone who wants to sell things to someone who can appreciate them, which the persona no longer uses. And another persona is someone who wants to sell and buy things with coupon and campaign. So now we're done. We made it with persona, but that's not the end of the story of persona. Because once we created persona, which means just defining the persona, but we need to create and leverage the opportunities to make the good use of them. As I just briefly showed you, the persona contains massive data. Unless we often use it, we may forget what we have surveyed. And if you don't understand the persona, that means that that persona doesn't exist at all. So during the course of development, we decided to add the process to revisit the persona that we created before. We usually break down the specification into the very detail. So we added the persona to the specification format, which allows us to review the persona when we come to the process of task definition and feature specification definition. So we changed the flow. It's just a simple addition of the process into the format, but this kind of the tweak really enable us to think about like what would be this person's like objectives and behavior. So up to here is all about the persona. So how to means that we interviewed external users about the actual stage and created a persona based on the quantitative data obtained from the review. And the result of that was like making the time to check the persona in the development flow to try to establish the persona. The rest of the time will be spent for another use case with loyalty survey. So the loyalty survey, why did we do that? We valued NPS and PayPay Flea Market. NPS is the scale to evaluate a customer's loyalty. You may see this scale before. So usually the question is that please answer to this question in a scale from 0 to 10. 7 to 8 is neutral. 9 to 10 is like a recommender. So to see if the service is continuously used by that person. And the PayPay Flea Market value this NSP evaluation, but it wasn't clear enough, which contributed to NPS, and therefore we didn't know what to do.
Therefore, with a book called Psychological Loyalty Marketing, we refer to the method introduced in the book. We conducted at regular intervals to allow for fixed point observation, and we structured NPS into 3 levels, and we measured each touch point to visualize loyalty. And I can only share on high level, so if you're interested in, please refer to the book. How did we make a hierarchy into all the services? The NPS or psychological loyalty was dissolved into touch point like this. And also there are 2 satisfactions tied to that. And we measured those. And also the satisfaction is affected by the experiences, and they are split into positive and negative experiences. And we itemized and created survey to ask the satisfaction. And this is a hierarchy. And please have a look at the screen. And this is overall NPS. And to recommend PayPay Flea Market to your friends and colleagues. And we have 10 scales. And for satisfactions by touch point, we measure the satisfaction and before completing selling products and whether you are satisfied or okay or dissatisfied. And thirdly, against the satisfaction, some of the items related to the experiences, and we made some assumptions and created items of the survey. And decided to give up selling the product during entry, or the product name, categories, brands, and product descriptions were entered automatically, which was convenient. And also, it was convenient to have the barcode, and also the video selling was convenient, and also we could depend all the prices up to the site and could exhibit the product without any pricing, and also category setting was troublesome. And this is the actual items of the survey that I mapped. And the actual mapping, how are we going to analyze the mapping? And there are two locations like this. On the left-hand side above, overall NPS is low and the touch point is high. The right-hand side below shows low satisfaction. And so want to bring what in the bottom to the right-hand side above. And this is the actual result. The left-hand side above and the right-hand side below made up of pink and blue boxes. And these circles are the area that we should address. Especially the one in circle affects loyalties in terms of touch point. So I'd like to specifically make a deep dive on these experiences to come up with the solution. And there's one thing that I'd like to explain about selling. And for selling products at Frima, for the completing listing, the people said it is convenient to do the listing of the product, but the listing items are rather troublesome, some people said. So these are the negative items, which was raised as points. So the automatic entry was introduced so that people will feel more positive feelings about the automatic entry. And the negative aspects of having troublesome listing products will be improved without investing too much money on this feature. And for delivery, in reality, the potential improvement measures for delivery was one of the items that was listed. So in advance, there are some improvement measures, and we wanted to increase the priority of that improvement action. And what we did was, so I have talked about the loyalty survey, and what we did was to divide them into 3 hierarchies and measured and qualified the touch points, and we split them into positive and negative experiences and measured, and we did the mapping and what can we do, and we came up with some of the actions for improvement. And also we actually took actions to improve those experiences, and also against existing improvement measures we decided to make a decision and make a fine tuning. And these are 2 cases that I wanted to introduce. There's some heavy items, and these are what we did with PayPay Flea Market. This way, we are regularly researching and we are repeating these researches. And what I'd like to say is that we need to have the culture of always having some kind of US research, and because that is valuable. And I hope that you will take this as a lesson. It is valuable to have the culture of having some sort of UX research, and I'm going to disseminate this through the Twitter, and please follow me with Kajima Kaho Twitter. Thank you very much for your attention. Tajima-san, thank you very much. We will have plus talk and we will invite interviewer, and the person will ask some of the point that the person was interested in. I'd like to have some deep dive about the session. And also, as much as possible, we'd like to entertain questions from viewers.
If you wish to question, please go from the icon at the right bottom of the screen and send us a question. This session's interviewer is Yosuke Saito of Line. Thank you for joining us. Could you please briefly introduce yourself? I am product designer of the biz design team at Line. Thank you so much for having me. So after listening to this session, is there any questions you would like to ask? Tajima-san, thank you for having me today. First, can I actually share my thoughts on the session? So knowing a family and the friends is actually the same as your research approach, and also the UX research benefits. It's something that you can get right away, but the past data should be just a dot, and it could be connected and forming a line. So that was actually my takeaway from the session, and I can quite relate myself to the session because the users on the image should be clearer, and that's something that we would like to pursue as a direction. And it was a quite important presentation, so I appreciate your presentation. Thank you for your comment. I have a couple of questions. So may I? My first question is UX research introduction. When you introduced it, the beginning, how was it? Because these UX research could be the opportunity to expand the organization. And I just got an impression that the decision making was very quick. And I just thought that your organization is very proactive. So you've already built a consensus before implementing this project into an organization. So I just wanted to know in the early days of this project. Thank you for your question. So yeah, even before this project launch, we were aware of the issues, and we knew that we need some kind of the solutions to address the issues 6 months ago or 12 months ago in terms of the product development. Because the product development cycle was usually given the higher priority, but we were aware at the same time that the user's perspective was missing from the journey of the product development. We've been discussing that, but how we could address the issue, maybe if I could actually stretch myself to fully, maybe I could pull it off, but particular more concrete idea how to address it was in my head based on my research and my ideas. So this was one of the things in my mind, and that time came and I actually shared with others. So I did prepare for this, but it wasn't like fully prepared in like with the sophisticated plan. I just seized the moment and did it. And I believe that you actually gradually brought more people to join the circle, right? Yeah. Basically, we have a huddle channel on Slack. And I've already connect the teams with more like the product development related people, and those who were interested in, they came to participate in this project meetings. And some of the new members join us and given their hands. And in some cases, the engineer conducted the survey on their own. Anybody who were interested in users could come and join. And I want to actually expand the pool of the people as an organization. So in order to expand the circle, then we try to ask and approach the people who may seem interested in this kind of the topic. That will be the approach from my side.
I understand. So as I imagined, you are very active and very proactive. You as well as your organization is very proactive. So my gut feeling goes right. And the next question is regularly you are repeating researches and always you're doing some sort of research. And if you don't mind, please tell us the frequency of the research or whether you are doing in parallel with other routine or daily work, and I'm sure you were doing. So if there is any tips about doing it together. And for the large scale qualitative research, when we say large, that is to invite users from our company because it will be quite time consuming. So maybe once every 3 months, quarterly, we hope we can have those large qualitative research. For the loyalty research, we do once every 3 or 4 months. So that is a cycle. And other than that, there's ad hoc survey, and we do that in between. So rather than frequency, maybe we do it monthly in some cases. If you look at the overall organization, how do we manage those resources? I am a manager as well. So using my position, we call them the functional development projects. And so we need to run those projects and we need to assign resources. And also the research is a part of our business. It's not a volunteer. It's not something that people are willing to do, but rather this is necessary for development organizations. So we positioned and we decided to allocate resources, for instance, 20% of the resources. And so we secure those resources, such as engineers, and we coordinate with the product manager and we say we are going to do this at this particular timing. And also there are members who are helping us and we will look at the volume of the work of the members in detail. So we are managing them quite in detail. So you created a culture. And I have another question. You are doing interviews yourself, and interviews tend to be very difficult because you might guide people to answer in a particular way. So maybe you're observing the behavior of the users, and is there anything that you pay particular attention to? Well, the first round of interview always comes for anyone, including me, and the people hesitate, and people say I'm not very good at talking to, or I'm not good at having conversation with other people. So people take it seriously and might find it as a hurdle. But people who don't like talking to tends to observe other people. So sometimes it turns out to be a successful case as well. And there's some tips. But basically, if you have more types or variations of questions by experiencing interviews and basically ask open questions, why or how did you think about this? The people say open question is better, but if you ask too many open questions, maybe the people who are interviewed may find it hard to answer. So in that case, we have closed questions such as which do you think, A or B, or maybe have some questions of being able to answer yes or no. So we can assemble the question that way. It's almost like a puzzle. It's almost like a formula. So we have more numbers of potential questions. Then if you repeat that again and again, maybe you will have higher skills of asking questions. And also, if you can see how good interviewers are asking questions, and the normal services such as receiving emails, and I go to the courses to take and to learn to gain the skill of having the good interview. And also, if there is any good moderator, I will go and see how those good moderators are asking questions. And with PayPay Flea Market, there are some engineers who haven't done interview there, but they're now very skilled and are asking questions efficiently. So they're amazing interviews. So if you do 3 or 4 times, people will no longer find it difficult. Thank you very much. And today with Tajima-san, I think I met for the first time, but maybe because of your atmosphere, I feel relaxed. So that sort of attributes, I wonder. Thank you very much. And it is already 1:45, so I'd like to ask you the last question.
So before the UX research and after the UX research, was there any like some tangible change that you could see in the organization if you can share with me? This is actually still on the way and in the middle of the journey. So there isn't anything that I can brag about. But usually it was like the designer who were proactive to do this kind of the user search on the surveys or usability test. But nowadays, like the engineers and other people than the designers are proactive to bring up this user like research, UX research. And also the people started to revisit the past research brought up as a story on the discussion table. Probably just the one round of the research was not enough, but since we did this multiple times so that like we could build an atmosphere for people to get more involved in this project, leading us to the higher like increase in the sales and the other like a business result, but that would be more like long-term goal. So it sounds like the everything's are going in a positive way, running in a very positive cycle. Thank you. Thank you for the questions we received. A couple of questions from the viewer, maybe 1 or 2 questions. Can you take from the viewers? The very first question I should take. If one answer is very insightful, how you should interpret it? I don't know the definition of the being insightful could be defined in a many different way, but maybe I should understand that being insightful mean that like get to the essence of the matter. But in this case, n is just a 1. So we refer to it. But if other users say the similar things to this first user, then that will be convincing. And that it really depends on the situation where this insight is brought to the person. And other than the interview, we capture data in other places. So massive amount of the data is analyzed every day. So that data is could be another answer. So we can always go back to the data that we captured to make sure that this one user's insights is really hitting the point or not. So that's the reason why we have qualitative data and quantitative data to see that the one single insight is really true or reflecting the reality. Thank you for your answer. Yeah, I believe that really answer to the question. Do you still have the time? You can take one more question. Anything you're interested in related to the data? So you need to collect the data. I believe the data extracted from the Google Analytics or other tool. What kind of tool do you use right now? There are many other data sessions. So as a Z Holdings. But when it comes to the Yahoo Japan, we have our own proprietary data tool. So we usually use that besides the Tableau to analyze data. Because in the early days of the launch of the PayPay Flea Market, we couldn't capture log of the button, and we had a very fierce discussion over that because we couldn't really see how effective that the campaign was. So gradually we start to capture log and just implement the log in a necessary point so that we can have a visibility. So the qualitative data capturing is something that we've been doing and we are doing. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to capture the things that we're really looking for. So usually that discussion is brought up at the time of the specification of the feature development tools to make sure that we can capture the log by using the Yahoo Japan's tools or other available tool.
Thank you very much.